Hey guys, Dr. J here. Today we're going to be talking about enzymes. Are they good for you? Are they bad for you? When do you need it? Why do you even need it to begin with? So we're going to dive into everything on the enzyme side of the fence today. Before we do, please smash that like button. Love to see your comments down below. And again, if you're having health issues or gut issues, stay tuned. We're going to dive into this here out of the gates. So first off, out of the gates, enzymes. What do enzymes do? So you know it's an enzyme if it has the word ASE at the end of it, right? Protease, that means it digests protein. Amylase, that means it digests carbohydrate. Lipase, that means it's digesting fatty acids or fats. And again, so typically we have the first enzymatic kind of reaction happening in our mouth. We masticate, we chew, and that chewing stimulates an enzyme called amylase in the saliva. That starts the breakdown of carbohydrate in the mouth. And that breaking down, that chewing starts to stimulate the cephalic and the gastric phase of digestion, where we're starting to now make enzymes. Just the fact that you're smelling, you're starting to make enzymes. If I were to tell you, just start thinking of a Krispy Kreme donut, think about the texture in your mouth. Picture the smell, you're starting to make a little bit of insulin. You're probably already starting to make the enzymes to break it down. So that phase of digestion is very important. So the chewing breaks that up. It gets the carbohydrates starting to be digested with the amylase, and then it starts to increase the surface area. So the enzymes in the stomach can even break it down more because there's more surface area to attack it. The more we can break those little particles into smaller pieces, the more the enzymes can hit it. So when we start to digest that food, we get the food in our stomach. Now the acid starts to be produced. That acid in our stomach, gastrin starts to stimulate that acid. Gastrin also causes that esophageal sphincter to close. It starts to lower the pH, and that pH starts to activate some of our proteolytic enzymes in our stomach called pepsinogen. Pepsinogen to pepsin. So pepsin is the active form of pepsinogen. That starts to break down our protein. So we consider the stomach mainly breaking down protein. Again, these are our proteolytic enzymes, okay? And then as that pH comes nice and low, all that food mixed up is called chyme. That starts to then move into our small intestine. And that nice low pH triggers cholecystokinin, which then causes gallbladder release. It also triggers the pancreas to make more enzymes, trypsin, chymotrypsin. It's also going to trigger the pancreas to make lipase as well. So we're getting more enzymes in the small intestine part of our digestive pathway. That pH also triggers the pancreas to make a bunch of bicarbonate, which is like baking soda, like a pH of, I think it's going to be more 7, 8 or so. So it's going to bring that pH up from a nice low 2, 2.5, 3, up to a 7 or so. So that brings the pH up. We have all these enzymes that are now active. These foods are also getting broken down. And then we're going to have a bunch of bile now being released. So now the bile emulsifies the fat more. The bile works hand in hand with the lipase to break down that fat. Now, as we get older, we're going to make less enzymes. We're going to make less acid, partly because one, we're hydrating less. The thirst mechanism is shown as we age. It tends to go down a little bit. There's studies on that where Dr. Botman-Gielish talks about it in his book, Your Body's Many Cries for Waters. As we get older, water hydration decreases. Also, when water decreases, we tend to also have less electrolytes. Plus, a lot of people are on certain medications that can lower their electrolytes, whether it's on diuretics or certain blood pressure medications. It can lower your electrolytes. And we need sodium and chloride to actually make your hydrochloric acid. We also need zinc as well. It's an important cofactor to make stomach acid as well. So if we're low in zinc, if we're low in certain minerals and electrolytes, and we're dehydrated, now we're going to have less of these raw materials to make our stomach acids. And we know that stomach acid is so important. It brings the pH down, and that activates our enzymes. So remember, if we're on maybe a lot of acid blocking medications, that's going to thwart our ability for our enzymes to work because enzymes are so intimately connected to pH. If we don't have good pH, our enzymes will not be as active. Now, also, the more stress we get, we activate our sympathetic nervous system. So we have our sympathetic, that's the fight or flight, that's the gas pedal, and we have our parasympathetic, that's the rest and digest and recover, right? So sympathetic gas, parasympathetic brake, rest, stop, relax. The more stressed we are, the more we're hitting the gas pedal, the lower the parasympathetic is. Think about it, right? You can't be hitting the gas pedal and the brake at the same time, per se, right? You're either hitting the gas or you're hitting the brake. And so the more you're hitting the gas, the less parasympathetic. That means the less enzymes, the less acid. Again, sympathetic blood goes to the hands and the feet to run, fight, and flee. When we're resting and that brake pedal is being engaged, now the blood goes back to the core, which is very helpful for good digestion. So that brings it in. So if we're chronically stressed, we're chronically inflamed from bad foods, maybe our adrenals are in overdrive, we're making lots of excess cortisol, that's going to put us in that fight or flight state. And that's going to allocate a lot of our blood resources away from the core to the extremities, and we got to bring it back in. Now, what are some simple things you can do to work on that? So first thing is don't eat inflammatory foods. So work on, follow my Just in Health template where we're eating whole foods, kind of a paleo, anti-inflammatory, nutrient-dense, low-toxin template, healthy protein, healthy fats, right? Be careful of the refined processed vegetable oils. Ideally, get your carbohydrates dialed in based on your activity level. If you're already pretty lean and you're already pretty active, you could do more fruit, more starch. Again, if you're less active, you maybe have a little bit more weight on you than you should, then you can always go more vegetable-based carbs and less fruit and starch. Again, you can adjust that, and that may be different per day. That may be different during the day. You may say, I'm going to keep carbohydrate very, very low all day long, and I'm going to backload a little bit of starch at dinner. And you could do that too and feel it out, test it out. I always recommend use a blood sugar meter. Test your blood sugar fasting. Ideally, you want it below 100. Within 1 hour, we want it below 120, definitely 140, but ideally below 120 in the first hour. Hour 2, we want it below 100. Hour 3, definitely below 100. And so essentially, it's a kind of correlatory, it's a corollary, if you will, where the more blood sugar goes up, the more insulin has to go up to bring it down. So blood sugar goes up higher, insulin goes up higher to bring it down. If it goes up lower, then insulin less to bring it down. And so it gives you an indirect idea of how much insulin you're making. So if your blood sugar is snaking along like this, 1 hour and then back down, you're probably making less insulin to bring it down, right? And we know high levels of insulin create all kinds of problems. Even if you can make more insulin or produce more insulin and your blood sugar is normal, the fact that you're making a bunch of insulin, you're prone to a lot of other issues regarding blood vessel inflammation, brain issues, kidney issues, early Alzheimer's, dementia, all kinds of things can pop up on our radar screen as it being a potential symptom of that. So you want to be on top of it. So in general, sinus breathing, 4 seconds in, 8 on the way out. So 4-8, that's fine. Pierce your lips, increase that inner abdominal pressure. That's shown to increase the parasympathetic response. So into the nose. Those olfactory nerves and nerves in the nose have some parasympathetic connection to the brainstem. 4 in, 4 out, or 8 out. Pierce lips. You can also pray, even just a prayer of appreciation, meditate. Anytime you get into that appreciative state, that activates parasympathetic. Very helpful. Going for a gentle walk after the meal and just looking at things like gazing far away, like looking at things out, like looking at the trees, looking at the grass, looking at an animal far away, and then bringing your gaze back. We live in these boxes where our eye vision is so fixed around us. Everything's so close. If we can really get farther away, that's good. We can do grounding on concrete or fresh grass. We can get some red light or even just get some full spectrum light in the morning or end of the day is great. Middle of the day is also fine. If the UV is really high, just don't burn. Get that minimal erythemal dose. Just don't burn. And stay away from sunscreens that are high in toxins. A zinc-based sunscreen, if you're out there too long, is probably okay. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed. So again, Dr. Jonathan Wright talks about this in his book, Why You Need Stomach Acid, but the charts show that as you age, acid gets lower, and we know acid is so important to your stomach enzyme. So acid is intimately connected to it. So if we're worried about enzymes, you have to get the acid right. And if you have your gallbladder removed, you're probably going to need enzyme support like lipase. You're probably going to need acid support, and you're probably going to need gallbladder support for the rest of your life because you've altered your anatomy. So if you're having chronic gut issues, digestive issues, you want to dive in deeper to look at your enzyme levels and how your digestion is, and if you can make it better, there'll be a link down below where you can reach out to my staff and team. We're happy to dive in and look deeper at your health, get to the root. Of course, infections and other bugs in your gut can also play a big role. And the more stressed you are, the more your cortisol rhythm is out of whack, too high, or maybe chronically low because you've burnt it out in a way. Maybe not like adrenal failure, but you've created adrenal dysfunction. We can look at that and dive in deep on it. So link down below if you want to reach out and schedule with my staff and team. Hope you guys enjoy today's video and love to see your comments down below. And if any family or friends could benefit, please give them a share. All right, guys. Thank you. Have a good day.